Hey, aloha everyone. This is Truthiracy, Christopher Lord from House of Wisdom. And I have a very special treat for everyone today because this video is going to absolutely blow your mind, because I am going to unleash and unveil and basically tell the entire story of what Halloween, the Even of 11, the ritual celebration of what it means and what it has to do with September 11th, 9/11, the 11 of the ELuminati, the number of their ritualistic acts. I'm going to unveil all sorts of mind-blowing information, what Guy Fawkes really means, and the apocalypse, all of this. And it's gonna be so complex yet so simple for everyone to understand. So go grab some popcorn, or go grab some fresh fruits, fresh veggies, pour yourself a nice fresh glass of water, and prepare yourself for some absolutely astonishing information that I'm about to unveil and reveal right now. So all of these concepts that I'm about to explain to you will be in my upcoming book that I am currently writing right now. So the very first concept that we must overview, that we must completely grasp about all of this around us, the matrix, the world as we know it, at least the modern day version of it, is that it's telling the same story of the old world. So there is no new world order, it's the same old world order. And all of this is about enlightenment, the wisdom and knowledge of grasping the wisdom of the dark light and the bright light, understanding Plato's cave, that the shadows on the wall are fake and they are a reflection, an anti-opposer to the bright light of truth. So many of us, are confused and have absolutely no idea what's going on in the world around us. What does 9/11 have to do with the Bible and the Torah and the Quran or religion in general? The movies, the Hollywood movies we watch, and what? Most people are completely lost and don't associate and understand, even though subconsciously they do, and are mind controlled by this, theology of the Enlightenment. And it doesn't matter where you come from, what you go to religion, secret societies, you want to be a Satanist and join a cult or whatever. It doesn't matter. You are going to learn one thing, the same thing, which is going from darkness of ignorance and birth into the bright light of wisdom and knowledge. So it's the same path. It's the same, outcome, the same result. You may take different paths to get there, but you're going to end up at the same place, the same conclusions. So, like a ton of bricks falling upon somebody, the wisdom and knowledge comes in big bangs, basically. It's the aporia of confusion and then going to the aspect of complete understanding of something. So when they first happen in our lives, we've learned that as you get older, you do understand that sometimes when something bad happens in your life, it's actually just an ending to a new beginning in your life. At that time, from that perspective and that point in time, your perception is that it's bad or evil and God hates you, whatever. But the truth is, as you as more time goes on and you get older and wiser, you'll understand that that was just a stepping stone to your enlightenment to a higher level of understanding and overstanding. So when September 11th happened, I mean, all of us were terrified, scared. Our foundation, as we knew it, had been crumbled, right under our feet. We were, terrified. And that's exactly what 9/11 was supposed to do. Because 9/11 was one of the, there's been obviously ones before it that were, I guess, the first steps to get there. Like Kennedy and Lincoln assassinations and the conspiracies around them, and understanding the first steps. But 9/11 was the first time that, worldwide since that time, think about it, everybody has been learning about truth and wisdom, tyranny, So I also was laughing when I first was approached with the flat earth concept, and I laughed. I said, are you kidding me? It's simple. But what people don't understand and, grasp is that this is a psyops of the mind. This has to do with learning and wisdom. It has to do with enlightenment, once again. So if you're just part of the herd and you're going to, follow, then you're going to listen to the videos and you're going to follow the herd and be completely dumb and wrong. Because enlightenment is about self-wisdom. You have to do the research. You have to grasp and understand. You don't take somebody else's word for it. So that's why over the years, everyone can research whatever I have to say and find out that I already did the research, I already did the work, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. But to be able to stand on that type of foundation at that high level, it has to be solid. You cannot go that high. You cannot build anything that high on a weak foundation. It'll crumble. So, that being said, September 11th, 9/11, 7/11, and the psyops of flat earth are all about the same thing. That if you have a high IQ or if you're a smart person, you're going to only do the tests yourself, you're going to do the experiments, you're going to learn even more. And I'm the first one to tell you that I'm glad the flat earth psyops happened, because what sounds crazy, I know. And I don't mean it like that they're fooling people, but what I'm saying is this, that they did it because if you're smart, like I said, you're going to do those tests, and I did those tests. I learned so much more than I already knew and grasped at that time, because I did all these experiments, because I, had to prove these guys wrong, which makes you find the truth 100%. If something fails even one time, well, then I don't care about the 99. Does it even fail once, then it's gone. And that's what this flat earth psyops is probably really all about, why they did it. Of course, we all know the elite are a little more evil than that and have much more sinister, acts within their belief system, I guess, whatever, I don't know. But I have to say that 9/11 was about enlightenment, because so many people have learned. Look how many truthers, including myself, have come out and learned just a ton of wisdom about everything in our world around us and reality and everything, that they, govern over us and preside over us. So had that not happened, I mean, who knows? People would not have wanted to learn, probably. It's like a child. They could have said, hey, they could have, actually back then, they could have said, hey, here's all the great wisdom, and here's all the truth in Solomon's temple, and blah, 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 and the sun and the moon, and here's all the truth of the Bible. But nobody would probably even care. But if you build a big story around it, you create a fake story that's built upon the real story, then the herd sucks it up. They buy it. And it's kind of like reverse psychology with a child. You put a thing of carrots and peas in front of them and you say, here, eat this, it's good for you. They'll toss the plate to the side, you know? Well, I know firsthand because it works. Because as the child sitting there and does that, I used to put the plate down and go, you better not take a bite. You better not take a bite. And what would they do? They start laughing. They grab the spoon and they start taking bites of peas and carrots and they eat it and they love it. So it's all how you're introduced to something. And I guess this is a massive psyops of introduction into wisdom and knowledge. And unfortunately, I guess the dumber get dumber because they don't actually do the real research. Like, let's say Santos or whoever, he's a follower. Every one of his videos, he holds up 35 books of other authors because he has no real substance himself. He leads by the hip and leads by his religious beliefs in his own spiritual world, whatever, but it has nothing to do with truth and wisdom of reality. So that's why people that don't do the research are just going to be misled. And that's what they want to, is to show how foolish somebody would be to believe in conspiracies and stuff. So that's why that psyops is sad for any truther that falls for it. Once you do the experiments yourself and you really grasp how to prove the Earth is a sphere without question, there's not even 1 grain of disbelief of whether or not it's not a sphere, because it is 1,000,000,000,000% a sphere. Now, is it a perfect sphere? We don't have to get into all that. It's so simple to prove. So we're not going to do a video about that, but I just want people to understand why it happened. So everything has to do with light, going from darkness to light and back to darkness, life, death, and rebirth. This is the triple head god, if you will, or the goddess, the trine aspect of the two within one, the 3 towers, the twin towers of the 3. So there is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. There is the Trinity of the Church, and so forth and so on, the 3 crosses, okay? With Jesus is what I meant on the sacrifice, Passover. And the trine aspect is the mother, the father, and the child. Because the 2 can do nothing. If you have a mother and a father, but they can't reproduce, then they're going to die. They're not going to have eternal life and exist forever. So you have to have the 3. And that's why you have the 3 within 1 in the Bible. Of course, it was patriarchy that took over the matriarchy, so now it's the Father, the Spirit, and the Holy Ghost, when it's actually the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? The Son. So the first thing to grasp is going from darkness, which we all do in the mother's womb. We come into lightness from Plato's cave. And we are brought into the bright lights of the world, which is sight. The El-ite. The El, who is the God of the Bible. The God of light. The Or. 216. 666. All of the numerology of enlightenment. Lucifer means light. Lux. It's the ELuminati, who are illuminated with the bright lights of wisdom and knowledge. That's why this has to do with the sun and harvest rituals of the old ancient world. The cycle of the wheel within 1 annual year, within 1 day. The microcosm and the macrocosm of as above and so below. The sower and the reaper. That's why the Bible is all about harvest. That's why the El-even is all about the harvest. It's why we have the harvest rituals of Samhain, or Samhain, the Samson's son that is hung, that is slain. Thus, Samhain, Halloween as we know it, on the Even of 11. The time between times, which I'll get back into, but understanding the harvest rituals and what they have to do with 9/11, which was Wall Street, the stock market, livestock, stock of our grains, of our harvest, which gives us eternal life. Same story as the Bible. Of course, we can get into the whole buildings, which are named after the old bull, and the Bible as well, which is why you find buildings on a boulevard. I can go on for days, believe me. So, Hollywood movies, we find the same exact story of these harvest rituals. I show people this all the time, and I can give some examples a little bit later. Our language that we're using, that I'm using right now, based upon the Even of the twin Evens of the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet. And of course, in the English, or the English language, we have 26 letters, which I can get back into and tell you all about that. So many interesting language, and all of this esoteric wisdom is just, mind-boggling. I love it. It's wonderful once you grasp it all. So the language of the god El is about light and enlightenment and wisdom and knowledge. And had none of this happened, I would know none of this. So, through the events that happened, the death of thousands of people supposedly, we really don't know whether it's real or not. Or did they really do a real sacrifice and really kill those poor people, which I guess through the wars and everything in the world around us, they did. So they manifested this harvest ritual into our modern day reality of September 11th, the harvest time, the fall, the cutting, the slaying. And when you watch the Hollywood movies, like I said, it's the same story. You have the orphan child, the Or of the sun, who represents the character of the seasonal year, the Jack, the jester, the joker, the clown, and that's why we find these characters on your birthday. You find them at the new year. You dress like the jester, the Jack, the clown, and you go through these fertility rituals of one seasonal cycle of the sun. Thus, we eat the cakes that are made that represent the harvest, just like it's an offering, just like on Halloween, where you have the offering of the candies that you offer and everybody's eating, that comes from the ancient soul cakes. Okay, because these are harvest rituals, the paganism, which is the same story as the Bible, by the way, and Satanism, and any other story that you want to get into. It's esoteric, secret societies, whatever. And of course our language and Hollywood movies, like I said. So the wheel of the year, if you can picture that, and I'll be displaying that, is just like a clock, and that's why I have them displayed out the same way most times. So the zodiac wheel of the year, you can divide up however you like. You can have a new year whenever you want, as you know, like on your birthday. It doesn't matter what day you're born on, you can celebrate that same sun cycle whenever you want. So the new year has always been divided upon certain equinoxes and solstices. The quarter cut, divided cross of the annual year. And this is where we have the Bibles, or the two within the one. The two cycles of summer and winter, the two cycles of day and night. Okay, the brothers, the sisters, the Bibles, like I said, of light and dark, the red and the blue. Okay? And that's why the year is the same as a day, or your life. And that's how it's anthropomorphized, as, a character of nature. So, the ritual of Halloween is actually the new year for the ancient Celtic Druidic order, which is what basically Halloween comes from. And it's the 11th month that they're really celebrating the new one from the one, the old one to the new one. And that's why, by the way, all holidays have children involved, because you have the adults and then it's the kids, because everything is about the fertility rituals of death and rebirth. And, you know, that's why you have a piñata, for example, that you hang up on a tree, which represents like Jesus on a pole or the cross. And then you cut, poke, and stab him like they did Jesus on the cross. And then the candy or the blood flows out and the kids eat it. The ancient harvest rituals where they would take the blood and they pour it back into the vineyards or back into the crops for next year, you know, putting the spirit of the annual harvest, Mother Nature, her child, her son that is born, and putting it back in his blood spirit back into the harvest for next year. The last corn sheaf and all this type of stuff. So the harvest ritual is what the ancient Celtic Druidic order would do next to the sacred tree, which is why you have trees in the Bible, the pagan tree, same thing, the tree of life. And as above, so below. The wise dome above is the same as the wise inverted root dome of below. And the spherical wisdom of two within one, like I said. So they would make offerings and sacrifices on these days, these ritualistic crossing days or cross-quarter days. Okay? The opposite of Halloween is Beltane, the eve of May 1st. So if you notice that we're all talking about these rituals all Christmas Eve, everything's on the eve during the dark time of blackness. We're going from the darkness to the new daylight that begins when the sun rises in the morning, after we mourn of the death of the darkness, bringing new life or rebirth. The sun is reborn again. And when the sun comes up, we are brought into the light. And that's why these ancient rituals would involve death sacrifices, sex orgies. The ancient Druidics would take Bibles, 2 white bulls, slay them, use their blood in rituals, and that's where Halloween comes from, because this was the time of division from the old death to the new life, basically. The time within times. The worlds between worlds, or the realms, the paradise, or the parable worlds, if you will, which is paranormal. The one beside the one, like the Twin Towers, same thing. That's why you had to have a North Tower and a South Tower, the male and the female, black and white, positive, negative, red and blue. It's the dualistic principles that are within the one, the three, the trine, which is why the most simplistic object is a triangle. The most simple form you can make is a triangle. You take 2 lines, it doesn't form anything. It takes 3, bare minimum. So, the Halloween time is a time of death, and that's why we all dress up as Jacks, or the characters of the jack-o'-lantern. The stage of the sun that has fallen in September and gone to the underworld and has turned orange, like a sunset that we see orange sun right before it dies and goes to the death of the underworld. Okay? In fall, in autumn, in September, when the head is slain in Rosh Hashanah. So it is the beheading of the old and giving way to the new. The Passover, the other side of the equinox. And that's when New Year's are celebrated. And we celebrate our New Year now on the solstice, when the sun stands still at the mid-winter, the mid-L of winter. And that's just when Saturn takes over in Capricorn, in the house of Capricorn, when we have the middle winter between summer and winter. And 3 o'clock position would be Aries, when the sun is reborn in springtime, the green man, which is where we get the concept of the green man, Jesus, all the characters of the Bible, because they are the ancient green child, the green son of Mother Nature that is reborn again. Now, no matter where you believe in the story, these concepts are the same, that the sun, was killed in Mabon or in September, and then it's beheaded, and that's why we have the stories of Judas, which all has to do with orange, and the slaying, the orange warning before the slaying of death, the kiss of death. And then the sun will be reborn again in Yule, U-L, Noel. There's no light, and that's why we light lights at Christmas time, because we're wanting the Son of God to be reborn and come back again, and don't leave us in darkness and hell. Okay? The time of the underworld. And of course that's up at 12 because we're hung upside down. L. All has to do with light. And that's, like I said, why we light up all the lights, and we wrap presents and we open them up. Taking them from the darkness of that cave and bringing them to the light, and bringing joy and new life to everything. Present in time has to do with time. So this is why Halloween represents ancient druidic death and sacrifice rituals of Samhain, and All Hallows Eve, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. It's the end of times. You understand that this is the ending of the 10 within the 10. And that's where 11 comes from, the eve of the 11. So the opposite of that is May 1st, May Day, the day that the ELuminati was formed. Okay? Maypole Day, May Fertility Day. May is the Queen, 5, Friday. She is the goddess of the May sons, the free Masons of May. So, all the knowledge and wisdom of the Bible, of the red and the blue, the sun and the moon that I've taught in all my videos, is understood. And thus, I'm trying to convey the message and understanding that this is the end of times. This is the apocalypse, the Apollo eclipse of the sun. The revelations of Re, the sun god. The story of the Bible, it's the same thing. The story of Ra from Egypt, same story. Or Osiris, resurrection. So, we will see the 11th month come, which is 9/11, November 9/11. It begins the time of the orange, the ember months of September, October, November, and December. It's the 7, 8, 9, 10, or the 9, 10, 11, 12. That's why you have the 10 lost tribes and the 12 tribes of Israel. Because the old year of 10 months and the new time of 12 months. So, you have the novum of 9/11. That's what September, or that's what November means, is 9/11. September means 7/11. Octum, October, means 8. And the novum means 9, like I said, and the decim means 10. That's why we say September, October, November, December, 7, 8, 9, 10, but really it's the 9, 10, 11, and the 12. It marks the end of the year. So, Memorial Day is 11/11, death, remembering the dead. World War I ended on the 11th hour, on the 11th month, on the 11th day. That's all planned. You see, this is a game of knowledge and wisdom. So, Guy Fawkes, what does it mean? It's simple, my friends. The novum of 9/11, the 5th of understanding May. Of course, it all has to do with the division or dividing, the cutting up, the bonfires of Beltane, the bonfires of Halloween, the bonfires of Guy Fawkes, who was cut up, divided, and quartered. Four seasons, 4 chop, 4 cut, 4 angels, or the angels in the religion of the Bible. The 4 heads of the Angavel, the angel in the Bible. The bull, the man's head, the lion, and the eagle that represents the cross of the solstices and the equinoxes. And that's why Guy Fawkes is quartered on November 5th, Novum, and then the 5 between that division of May and November, or Beltane and Halloween, which is their new year, and their mid-L of the year. He is chopped up and divided and sacrificed upon the burning fire, the quarter cross days of the zodiac. And that's why they had 36 gun barrels, okay? Because 36 is the cut up, division, divided zodiac wheel, the 36 quadrants of the zodiac. There are 3 houses within each house, 3 angles, zodiacs, and that's why you have 1/3 of the angels that are fallen, of course, throughout the year, because 1/3 of the angels have fallen. So you can watch my videos about all that. I teach what the angels mean and all that. So this is the time of orange and of purple. So orange and purple represent this time between times when the sun is either going down to the underworld or rising. So it represents either life or death. It's that realm between the realms, which is what the 11 is all about, the time of Halloween is all about. And this thin veil or realm is what, the Orange House of Death series was all about as well. This character of the Jack is, the character of nature. And this is why the Green Man or the Jack or the Jester, the Joker, has the colors of purple, orange, and green. The Joker. Because that's the colors of nature. And, all of the wisdom that comes along. That's what Wicca means, by the way. The witch, the Wicca, the wise one. Before the Druid, it was the Druidess priestesses. Because the male took over the ancient female religion of the old world, the ancient world. So this is all harvest rituals of old and life and death and rebirth. And the division of day and night, winter and summer. You can look at the old Sumerian, Babylonian epics of the debate between winter and summer. It's what it's all about. It's what the Bible's all about. The stories of harvest. Jesus, Jesus, their names mean the divide, Dione. Both black and white, both red and blue, because it is the division of the two. And that's why all the stories of the Bible are all about the dividing of David. He was small. The giant was giant. Everything's opposite, polar opposites. The dividing waters. The Old Testament, the New Testament, the Sol and the Mon, the sun and the moon of King Solomon, the wisdom, the baby being divided. I could go on for days. So Jesus, who was born in a manger or a stable, which is an animal house, or a zoo animal house, and he is first known at the age of 12 and 30, because 12 houses of the zodiac, and each house is 30 degrees. His ministry began at 30, the Bible, house of May. Thus, he is the Lamb of God in Aries and becomes the bull. And that's what the sun does, and goes to become a lion, and so on and so forth. Gets its head chopped off in the orange month of September, or separation of the sept, the 7, or the 9 of Novum. Same thing. So it's the fall. That's why you have Isis, the orange bucket of, it's the same thing there. That's why if you look at the decapitations of Isis, almost all of them occur in September. And I exposed that a long time ago, so I wouldn't doubt now that there are many other times to throw us off. But it's what it means, believe me. That's why you have decapitations in the Bible, which is the story of light and the harvest, the same thing. So Jesus, like I said, is the Dios, the Dione. And that's why he is beaten and whipped. That's what you do to the grains. You beat and whip them. Jesus is the sower, the reaper. He is enlightenment. He is, lightning. It's like Zeus. He'll return with thunder and lightning. Just like Baal. It's the same thing. Paganism and Christianity, Judaism and everything, it's all the same. 100%. Just told a different way. Anyway, the Jack character is the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern of Halloween. He is that character in the time, or the time when light is dark, and that's why, like I said, you have the devil, or the shad of the shadow, the fake light that is absent of light, actually. So that's why you have El Shaddai, the god, and it's the one-breasted one. One male, one female, half female, the one within the year. So, Samhain, Samson, the story of the sun, is what this is all about. I don't think most people remotely even grasp that, but that's what all these stories are about when you watch Wizard of Oz, the Golden Brick Road, getting to the green land of springtime. The spiral, the rabbit hole of life, and that's why the clock and the time is for springtime. The fertility of eggs involving the children. The rabbit, Playboy Rabbit, the fertility mother goddess of the east star of the sun that rises in springtime, becomes big and bold and powerful in May and continues on through, the summer season. He is the Lion of Judah, the Lion and the Lamb, the beginning and the ending of summer. That's why the book of Revelations is all about the apocalypse of the sun. I've proven that. The woman clothed in the sun, etc. And I showed why. Because the sun is in the house of the Virgin during that time. Anyway, I just wanted to share these thoughts with everyone. You'll find, so much more in my book. I just wanted to kind of go have an overview of everything and just kind of get people on the wavelength of truth and understanding of the world around us and what's really going on. So, have a good Halloween. Have fun dressing up with the fake masks, the characters of nature that we dress up like. Just like on your birthday, just like we'll do at the end of this year on Christmas time, Saturnalia. And same rituals, and there's nothing wrong with these rituals. Just wish we all knew the truth versus living in fantasy land and nobody even remotely knows what I just talked about in this video. Now you do. To many, it's probably even boring. I see it like a movie, and it's so clear, so easy to grasp and understand. It's awesome. But very few people understand it that way. And they don't see it that way. They don't understand that the zodiac is the Bible that is divided. That is the story of Osiris being chopped up and divided. Same as Dionysus or, any other god like that. And that's why Osiris is found in Biblos, where the Bible was named after, and I could go on and on. It's amazing story that all leads up to the same thing. That's why we have capital letters and lowercase letters, as above, so below. It's the same story of El, of enlightenment, and of the devil, the Shad, of the dark shadow of ignorance. So, I hope that this helped people to grasp and understand what 9/11 has to do with watching, movies like the X-Men. I was just watching that. It's so funny. I'm saying this is a story of the Zodiac, and people just don't see it. These characters that have all these supernatural powers, Superman's the same thing. He's an orphan too. So, as I was saying that, I was talking about how it's the apocalypse, and then what do they show in the latest X-Men? It brings up a picture of the four horsemen carrying the symbols of the last four houses of the zodiac. It's the balance scales of Ma'at, of the Matthew, of the balances of the zodiac wheel. The same with the balance that you find symbol in the 12 tribes of Israel. So Libra scales, whatever you want to call them. It's when the world goes to the underworld and is judged, and the heart is weighed upon the ostrich feather of Ma'at, Mother Goddess. So this death and rebirth cycle of Osiris and Isis, and the sun, reborn again sun, Horus, if you will, the horizon, the east star sets in the west and fights Set, pokes out the eye, goes to the underworld. It's all the same theology and philosophies of understanding the light and the dark, of the sun and the moon, the dualistic principles that are within the one. That's why the Twin Towers were the two that fell in September. 7 fall. 7 cut, 7 fall. That's what it means. The ember months of like a burning fire that was on fire in summer is now in its ember state. Not dead, really, but in its ember state until it's reborn again. So the time is upon us. Night of the living dead, the ancient Celtic druidic night of the even of 11. It's the same as the Bible, like I said, the 11 upon the 11, which makes the 22 of the Hebrew alphabet. And that's why the Bible starts with the Aleph, which is the bullhead of the A. And the next set of 11 starts with the 12th letter of L. Okay? And that is L, all, the A and the L. All means all, which is God, all. Just like the word Pan means all, the green one, the fertility green man. So the ELuminati are the enlightened ones of El, of May, the opposite opposing being that of the even of 11, which represents the death. And that's why September 11th was full of 11s. New York was the 11th state. The Statue of Liberty stands upon the star of the even, the Elven star. So, the 11th, the 11, 11, 11, 11, you just can go on for days, which I've shown before of what happened on that day. And that's how you know a man from a cave didn't go back thousands, hundreds of years on 1609, on September 11th, when the World Trade Center, where it stood on Hudson Bay, there was discovered by Henry Hudson, by the Orange House of Death, the Orange Dutch House, the House of Orange. That's why New York is orange. Yeah, that's why Clinton wears orange. Go on for days. So, the harvest season is ending, and we are celebrating it right now. And we are dressing up as these jacks, these jesters, these ghouls, these daemons, these deities of the moon, these monsters, these moon starters of the nighttime. That's why we come out at night. That's why the festivals begin when the sun goes down. The darkness is upon us. The time between times of the L-even of the L-even. Day and night, dawn and dusk. Twilight. Time of fertility. In the morning, when the sun first strikes the darkness and pierces the darkness, a fertility ritual. And that's why the ELuminati lights up fireworks, and we celebrate the fertility explosion of the orgasm of fertility. That's why the Washington Monument is the bull penis of L. It is the papal bull of the Papa, Pope, Father of the Vatican, St. Peter's Square, Peter, Petri, Father, the penis, Peter Pan, fertility. That's why it's all about that, guys and gals. The dualistic time of the clock of black and white. The 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light. And that's what all of this is built upon. And we go through it every day. We know all about it, but yet no one understands how it's all correlated. So I thought I would take my time to explain it to everybody. Why are we in the orange month, and why is Judas orange, and why is God orange? He's the Or, 216 of the Bible. Look it up. So we can go on for days here of understanding this ancient death sacrifice orange cult that we're in right now. We're in the House of Orange. We are celebrating the House of Orange death when we partake in these ancient rituals. And that's why it exists without you even knowing about it. You are partaking it willingly without even knowing the willing sacrifice. So, if any of you want to know more about this in detail, you can check out my book, which will be coming out soon. I just had to get this off my chest and kind of give a big overview of how all of this is correlated with the orange, the red and the blue, the division of the divide of the year, the day and the night, the Godhead, the deity that is divided in divinity. And that's what all of this means. So you can stay ignorant in the darkness, or you can use your life to gain the wisdom and knowledge that is out there. And having not only understanding, but overstanding. I wish everyone a great day. Peace, love, and wisdom. Aloha.